I'm BrigantiaBlackbird, the Blackbird Grimoire. Welcome to the daily forecast for Saturday, December 28th, 2024. It is the 8th of Capricorn. It is the day of gifts. And it is also Wisdom Night. I thought this would be a nice, cozy thing to do for our Yuletide celebrations. We can focus upon storytelling and especially sharing that inherited pagan wisdom from the Havamal, the Celtic triads, philosophers like Marcus Aurelius. We can shut out distractions. We can make this entertaining. And most of all, we can carry on the tradition of telling stories and sharing experiences by the fire, whether it's a campfire, your hearth fire, or the nearest equivalent thereof. If the family's gathering around your collection of candles, you know what? Close enough. Bring the warm blankies, bring the hot cocoa. Make this about you can convey a lot of wisdom through storytelling. And so, depending on how you do this, especially if you are a bit more exuberant, this can be a very fun, family filled activity for tonight. And most of all, it means you are continuing to pass on the beneficial lessons to the next generation. So, give it a go. Then in our astrology for today, the sun is in Capricorn, cardinal earth, representing ambition. The moon is fourth quarter Sagittarius, mutable fire, which represents adventure. Mercury is in Sagittarius, mutable fire, which is to be opinionated. Venus is in Aquarius, fixed air, which is to be intellectual. Mars is retrograding in Leo, fixed fire, representing tempered action. Jupiter is retrograding in Gemini, mutable air, which is to broaden perspective. Saturn is in Pisces, mutable fire, representing nostalgia. Uranus is retrograding in Taurus, fixed earth, representing rebellion. Neptune is in Pisces, mutable water, representing intuition. Pluto is in Aquarius, fixed air, representing reformation. So for our retrogrades, Mars, reconsider what you really want. For Jupiter, reconnect with your true path. For Uranus, reconsider how you rebel. And for Chiron, restore the heroic spirit. We have a waning crescent moon, which means celebration, contemplation, and cultivating rest. And then the Sagittarius moon theme is truth and travel. So we have Pisces Saturn just being absolutely filled to the brim with nostalgia, which is perfect for the Yuletide season. And then we have the Sagittarian moon wanting to be a bit adventurous. So perhaps you can reconcile these energies by exploring old family or cultural traditions you've discovered. That way you can join the sentimental and the adventurous, and maybe you can get those energies more or less going in the same direction as opposed to opposing each other and creating stress where perhaps that stress could be avoided. Then in our tarot for today, we have the Wheel of the Year. Now, in this deck, the Wheel of the Year relates back to the Wheel of Fortune in traditional tarot decks. It's number 10 in the major arcana, and that represents momentum. And its keywords are movement, destiny, and change. The wheel is turning, and I love the fact that it's coming up now as we're, more than at the midpoint of we're on that downward, that downward slope of the Yuletide season. Very quickly, we'll be going into January, the new calendar year, and then after that, it'll be about preparation for a Malk. The wheel is always in motion. The wheel is always spinning. The wheel is always turning for us, and so we're starting to kind of gently redirect our thoughts to what comes next. And of course, this is also about what is coming next for each of us very personally. You might find yourself in a pretty introspective mood today about what do I want the next year to mean? What do I want to do? What do I want to create? How can I bring that into being? Is this in alignment with my purpose or is it not? How do I need to maybe rearrange my circumstances to make certain things happen? There's a lot to consider here. And I think it's reminding us also that, the next thing up on our calendar with a Malk is the very beginning of the planting of seeds. And it's not necessarily talking about the seeds we plant in our gardens, talking about the seeds we plant in our souls. Remember that the most literal interpretation of the Wheel of the Year, I always feel like that's incredibly incomplete because you're missing out on all of the symbolism and also about what the general agricultural cycle is trying to teach us about also how we make things happen spiritually. It begins with the planting of seeds. So what seeds are you intending to plant with the next turn of the wheel? Lots to think about today. Then today's Celtic triad is three people who will please the mighty ones. They who love everything living with their whole heart, they who love every beautiful thing with their whole strength, and they who seek every knowledge with their whole understanding. So never let it be said that pagans, past or present, don't value life. And when you think about the ancient world, they were especially aware of just how fragile life was and how it ought to be cherished. And even though they lived through incredibly violent ages, part of that violence was driven through the need of survival. Those days they definitely picked. Well, if it's your survival or mine, guess who I'm picking? I'm picking mine. That's why all of us are here now. But nevertheless, that doesn't mean that while there was an acknowledged reality of conflict and sometimes even the necessity of conflict, it doesn't mean that that's what our ancient ancestors loved. They faced conflict so that they could value the life that was most close to them. Not just their own personal life, but their families. Uh, their communities, their very way of life, how things were for them. They were trying to preserve something they believed to be good. And um, and I think it is worth us asking ourselves, what are we seeking to preserve? And then the love of every beautiful thing with the whole of one's strength. Love of beauty is not superficial. Ugliness, sloppiness, thoughtlessness, that is very easy to do. It happens all the time. People just put no effort into anything, whether it is their personal appearance or what buildings they constructed. Whereas beauty, by contrast, it's intentional. It requires effort, sacrifice, conscious decisions and choices. Now, it is true that the natural world, has its own organic kind of beauties, and that's very true. However, those beauties, they aren't always equal, are they? There are many spots on Earth that are far more beautiful than the others. And so it shows that there's something about beauty requires structure. Even in the most organic, natural sense of the term, it requires structure. And when it comes to the beauty that we ourselves create, it is going to require structure to create it. It's going to require structure to bring it into being. It's going to require structure to make sure we can whip ourselves into shape so we actually get the thing done. So, loving that beauty, it's also loving the effort and the thought and the love that went into the creation of that beauty. So definitely not a superficial thing. And then finally, knowledge. Seeking knowledge, it goes beyond memorization. It's about understanding how this knowledge fits within the greater whole. And that's where the understanding really comes in. It's seeking every knowledge with their whole understanding. You're seeking information to see how it is, how what kind of detail it's filling in to your worldview. How is it helping you understand the nature of reality, of life, of the gods, of yourself? Of your cat, whatever it is you are seeking to understand, how does it fit inside of that greater whole? This is really the pursuit of the nobility of spirit. All of these things put together, and you can see why it is very pleasing to the gods because it's about striving for that height of the human experience. Then our correspondences for today are on the theme of sleep. Depending on how busy your schedule is, you might feel very ready for sleep. But the color is black, the plant is the poppy, the animal's the sheep, and the crystal is a jet. So after the whirlwind of Yuletide is over, you might be seeking extra rest, and who can blame you? But should that rest prove elusive, make use of these correspondences. The black for the blackness of light. Poppy, in its various forms, has a notable impact upon one's ability to sleep. Don't do anything harmful or illegal, just saying that thing right now. With the animal of the sheep, the business of counting sheep, that's been a saying and the suggestion to cure insomnia for a long while now. So there's no separating sheep from that association. And then with jet has a way of calming down the energies around us. And sometimes when we are finding sleep to be, a little bit elusive, it is because we have not calmed the energies around us. We have not calmed the energies within us. Maybe it's time to establish a consistent practice of meditating before we even try to go to sleep at night. Maybe that would help. Maybe we need to make some adjustments in our bedrooms to make sure that it actually is an atmosphere conducive to sleep. Having your home office in your bedroom, having exercise equipment in your bedroom. I understand sometimes these things are unavoidable, but It's helpful if you can get them out of your space, or at the very least, make it very clear when these things are off, because primarily the bedroom should be for, I'll put this tactfully, rest and romance. And so you need to have the right vibes for that. If you have the vibes of your work, or the ordinary paying of bills entering into that sleeping space, if you have the whole, yeah, I got to do something about all those treats I ate during the Yuletide. I gotta get back on this treadmill. If you have those vibes entering your sleeping space, it's going to create an atmosphere in which you're not going to be very restful. It's going to be constant reminders of things you were supposed to be doing. So, uh, try to make necessary adjustments if it is at all feasible for your circumstances. Then, for today's hearth-keeping hint, create space within your home that can be explicitly dedicated to the gods. It serves as a spiritual center, and that also helps you ensure that you're going to be more likely to actually maintain those divine connections, offering your prayers, burning your incense and your candles, providing offerings of a more substantive kind. It just makes it a lot easier to do that if you have a dedicated spot. Then, for today's practice, participate in the tradition of storytelling and wisdom sharing. You might do some altar work today. Our archetype is the winter wizard. What has he learned from the season that can help you? What he can imagine from that. And then for your meditation, how do you form spiritual connections in your practice? And then you might carry or wear tourmaline today if you happen to have it. In our creative corner, the calendar new year is almost upon us. Yuletide is rapidly drawing to a close. So start brainstorming how you're going to update your altar so it has a more wintry vibe and a run up to a mall, but that doesn't, feel like you're trying to drag out Yule. What is going to create that atmosphere for you? Because new year, new energy, you want to make sure that your altar is really reflecting that. Then, for our journal prompt, how do you hope to spiritually evolve in 2025? Sure, that'll give you a lot to write about today. And then, on that note, everyone, have a magical day. I wish you bright blessings and all of the joys of the season. I hope you'll come back tomorrow for the next edition of the Daily Forecast. But